Good morning. I would like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us during our weekly virtual Emers breakfast meeting. My name is Pauline Lam of Cotai Realty. A few housekeeping tips. All participants will be muted, and should you have a question or a comment, please enter it into the chat box. The host will read it during the Q&A section of the meeting. Please remember to join us weekly, as we will have our virtual Emers breakfast meeting every Thursday at 9 a.m. As always, this meeting is being recorded and will be available online on our YouTube channel, West San Gabriel Valley Realtors. A little about me. My name is Pauline Lam. I'm your May Emers Program Chair. Please remember to follow WSGVR social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You also can watch all our pre-recorded video on YouTube. Today, our agendas consist of affiliate spotlights, Ami Adini, Environmental Services, the President's message given by 2020 President Mindy Ye, and followed by our guest speakers, James Chang, State Farm Insurance, Tony Escamilla from Villa Home Inspections, Horatio Garfield from Buyers Protection Group, and Joseph Yan from Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. Today, our affiliate spotlight is Ami Adini, Environmental Service, which brought to you by Affiliates Committee. Here's Ami.
Hello and good morning to all of our friends at San Gabriel, West San Gabriel Association of Realtors. And here is a quick introduction of myself, and I wish you all health and happiness. Over 500 commercial, industrial, and residential properties. We educate realtors, sellers, and buyers on what does phase one do for them. Equally important, what does it not do when phase two is not necessary, and that not all contamination requires cleanup. I have a diploma in mechanical engineering and worked in nuclear facilities, chemical plants, and hazardous wastewater treatment. And I am a licensed engineering contractor, also certified in the removal of hazardous substances. I've been married since 1967 to the most beautiful girl in the world. We live in a 1913 California craftsman's bungalow, and we have a daughter, Sigal, married to Tony and living in Silmar. I love hiking in the trails of Los Angeles Crest Forest. Joshua Tree State Park is fascinating, and Zaborego is enchanting. And the mud in Glen Ivy Hot Spring makes me feel like a world-class wrestler. Go to our website for picturesque enlightenment, and you will never be the same again. I'm always available to you for free education. God bless you all.
Thank you, Ami. Please remember to support our affiliates with your transaction. Next, Mindy Ye will give her president's message. Mindy, please.
Thank you, Pauline. Good morning, WSGVR family and friends. I'm Mindy Ye, your 2020 president. Thank you for attending our virtual MLS breakfast meeting. We're thankful for your continued support as a valuable member of West and Gable Valley Realtors. Please remember our leadership team and staff are always here for you. I would like to thank our guest speakers today, affiliate home inspection panelists. Thank you to all 13 of our candidates who submit completed candidate package for 2021 WSGVR directorship. To all the candidates. In the interest of time, I would like to share brief highlights with all of you. On May 25th, CAR released California Stage 2 reopening guidance, new forms to help members comply with new industry guidance on showing properties. CAR has developed new best practice guidelines for real estate during COVID-19 in response to COVID-19 industry guidance for real estate transactions issued earlier this month by the California Department of Public Health Industry. The industry guidance document details physical distance and cleaning, disinfecting practices, reopening. Since the release of this document, CAR has worked closely with this interpreter and revised some of the restrictions in order to make them more manageable, while focusing on health and safety of our members, their clients, and community. CAR updated best practice guidelines now available on car.org and form. I urge you to read these guidelines carefully and to implement them at all times when showing properties. Always defer to the rules governing the local area, as cities and counties might have more strict restrictions on real estate activities. Adopt a preventive plan. You might use CAR document called BPPP, stands for Best Practice Guidelines Prevention Plan for Showings, available within the COVID library in zip form. The BPPP should be signed by the broker office manager and agreed by all agents. Basically, what you're seeing on the screen is you need to post the update picogram on your listings, and the new revised no longer needs gloves, shoe covers, but you must have them sign the form and post a picogram, and then they need to wear a face mask and social distance of 6 feet, and then the listing agent must clean the property prior to showing and after showing, and the listing agent must provide face mask and, for prospect buyers that are viewing the home. So moving on, I'm going to give you an update on CAR on housing-related legislative bills. CAR focuses now than ever on protecting private rights and home ownership. There are a number of house-related bills currently being considered. A quick summary of CAR proposed on these bills, what you see on the screen. AB 1905 limits mortgage interest deduction, opposed. AB 2501 increase the cost of mortgages, it's opposed. AB 828 unfairly penalize rental properties, reduces reduction on rent, opposed. SB 939 prevents commercial evictions with no protections for commercial owners, opposed. Support AB 2463 limit debt that would force the sale of a principal residence. DRE announced update on exam centers. The Department of Real Estate announced the Sacramento and La Palma exam centers will reopen on June 1st. Examinees can use e-licensing to schedule their exam dates. Examinee affected by the extended closures will be allowed to reschedule the cancel exam days using DRE e-licensing systems. Exam rescheduling fees will be paid for cancel exams. I hope you continue practicing the social distancing, stay fit, stay engaged, stay hopeful, and remember to always practice peace and gratitude daily during this challenging and unforeseen times. Please join us next Thursday, June 4 at 9 a.m. We will have an update on CAR and NAR spring meetings from our directors and GAP. Additional information will be available by the end of this weekend. Thank you. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you,
Thank you,
Pauline.
Mindy.
Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you, Mindy. Now, it's my great honor to introduce you our affiliate chair, James Chen, State Farm Insurance, present you home inspection panel. James, send it over to you.
Thank you, Pauline. Good morning, everyone. My name is James Chen. I'm the affiliate chair and State Farm agent in the city of El Monte. And on behalf of the affiliate co-chair, Cosmo Sanchez, New AIM Funding, and all affiliates, we would like to present our amazing home inspection panel. Let me go ahead and introduce you to Tony Escamilla, Villa Homes Inspections.
Hey everyone, good morning.
Horatio Garfield, Buyers Protection Group.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Joseph Nguyen, Pillar to Post Home Inspectors.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump into the questions, okay? Tony, how has COVID-19 affected the home inspection industry in relation to real estate sales?
It has been very interesting. When this first hit in March, I think there was a lot of panic in the industry and everything pretty much came to a standstill. I remember going out to inspection and midway to my inspection being canceled, and then the rest of my inspections being canceled for the day. It was like a domino effect. Once we got a little bit of guidance and realized that there were still some transactions that needed to be completed that were still already in escrow, then we started getting more phone calls, and we started adjusting to our new reality. So as far as home inspections went, we adjusted. We followed the CDC guidelines, and then the real estate market adjusted as well, and got some guidance, and then was deemed essential again. And a lot of new forms came out as far as liability and you know, entering properties and stuff like that. So we've adjusted quite well.
Thank you, Tony. Horatio, some inspectors tend to make a big deal out of minor repairs, making the buyer nervous. How do you go about communicating the condition of the house without scaring the buyers?
Hello, thank you all for having me in this panel. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with the entire board. It is very important to prepare the client for what it is to come. Obviously, the inspector is there to view the house and communicate the condition of it. My approach is focusing on 5 major areas of the inspection, which are the roof, the structure, the foundation, plumbing, electrical, and heating systems, as well as central AC. So I try to keep those items of most important at the inspection. Obviously, the report is going to have a lot of those minor little items, which might be a cracked tile, a missing door stopper, but I try to keep those major areas at the inspection. Thank you.
I think James is still on mute.
Thank you, Horatio. Joseph, most realtors understand that a home inspection is a visual inspection and not invasive. but are there tools that can be utilized to get a deeper understanding of the condition of the home?
So again, I just want to say thank you for having me. And yeah, there are lots of tools that a home inspector can definitely use to perform the home inspections and also maintain the non-invasiveness. Some of the tools that we typically would use is like a moisture meter that we carry with us, a laser thermometer to check temperatures, and even an infrared thermal imaging camera. With those type of equipment that we use, we can definitely see things that we can't normally see with the naked eye. It could reveal to us, leaks in the structure or even in the piping, possible electrical anomalies within the all the outlets or the distribution panel, and also potentially mold or even insects that are within the structure itself. So these, especially with using these equipments, we definitely don't have to, take anything apart or break into a wall and things of that nature.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah.
Tony, what are you doing to ensure everyone's safety during home inspections?
Like I said, we had to adjust a lot to our current situation, and we completely understand that people are very worried, rightfully so, about COVID-19. When we show up to an inspection, we show up with masks, we show up with gloves, booties for our shoes. We maintain very strict social distancing. When we schedule an inspection, we send out an email to all parties involved saying, hey, look, here's what we would like. Here's the proper protocol for COVID-19. We prefer that there be as little, if any, people in the house during the inspection, including the owner, if at all possible. We will go in, do the inspection, and then we will meet outside at the end of the inspection with the agent and the buyer to explain what we found and point out any deficiencies. We're also available for a phone conference. I have had some customers who don't want to be there at all. And we take tons and tons of photos during the inspection so that it makes it easier for the customers to see what we were able to see in lieu of them being there. And we can set up video chats just like this via Zoom with all parties involved after the inspection and review the report and answer any questions. I have one scheduled right after this meeting with a customer who's out of state and receive the report, and we're able to view it, share the screen, review the report page by page.
Thank you, Tony. Horatio, do I need an inspection on a new home?
It is important to get an inspection on every home. I mean, we are humans, even contractors are humans, and we all tend to make mistakes. It is always good to bring in your own inspector to give you a good view of everything of importance around the house. I personally been in homes where in the attic, some of the structures are damaged or were not placed appropriately. How often do homeowners go into the attic to double check the structure? Most likely. So it is very important to bring in your own inspector and give you a good, honest opinion on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Horatio. Joseph, what should realtors do prior to the inspection?
Some of the things that realtors can do that'll definitely help expedite the home inspection process is definitely making sure that we have access to the crawl space, the attic, the basement, and even the roof. It definitely does help us do the inspection a lot faster and more efficiently. And that way we don't have to, stop and try to figure out why we can't access these things. And the clients will definitely have a more fully evaluated inspection. Another thing that is important is to make sure that all the utilities are on, if they can be on, to make sure so that we can test all those utilities and have that in the report as well. There has been an instance where I was in a home and the plumbing was turned off. As home inspectors, we don't turn on or off any of the electrical panels, any breakers or water or plumbing, mainly because some of these systems could be being worked on a contractor, and and there's a reason why things are being turned off. So with that being said, there are things that agents can definitely do to make expedite the process and make it easier for us to inspect.
Thank you, Joseph. Tony, how do you handle explaining the difference between big problems and minor problems to customers?
That's a great question. We get that a lot. And I know it's a big realtor concern when explaining things to a buyer, particularly a first-time buyer. They tend to be very nervous, and any little thing can scare them. So I think the important thing is knowing the difference between a big problem and a little problem. I myself am a general contractor and a building inspector. So I think knowing how the building is supposed to be put together makes it easier to determine whether it's a big problem or a little problem. The five major areas of a house, which are typically the most expensive repairs, are the roof, the foundation, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, and the electrical system. So typically during a summary at the end of the inspection, when we're dealing with the home buyers, that's what we review. And then everything else comes in the report. So knowing whether it's a big problem or a little problem, and then dealing with the home buyer gently and explaining the situation. Hey, you have a deterioration on the roof. It's not urgent that you replace it now, but just keep in mind that it is coming to the end of its useful life, and you should definitely keep it on your radar, as opposed to, wow, you need a new roof. And that leaves a lot of questions. I think the more you explain and the more you educate buyers, the easier it is for them. Even bad news can be delivered properly without scaring them. And then, of course, you want to point out, on occasion, there are things that you have to point out that they are bad. It's bad news, or it's a safety concern of some kind, and you have to point that out. But again, it just really depends on how you relay that news, on whether how the buyer will react, basically.
Thank you, Tony. Horatio, why is it important to inspect the crawl space?
To follow up on one of the previous answers, it is important to have access to those areas prior to the inspection. It's always good for the agent to coordinate with the listing agent or the seller to have those areas open. The crawl space is you get a clear view of the structure, of the foundation, to see if there are any cracks, to see if the structure is bolted to the foundation. I believe that is an important item for insurance purposes. You also have a view of the plumbing or the sewer to see if there's any leaks, to see if it's well supported, if it's copper, if it's galvanized, if you have any. So it's important to have access to this, because that is where you get a clear view of all of the that clearly most homeowners would like to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Horatio. Joseph, what is the difference between a home inspection and a code inspection?
So I know the difference between a home inspection and code inspection. Code inspections are typically done, as with a government entity, and then make sure that everything is within safety parameters, so that the building can be can be used by people. I mean, a lot of it is just codes to the current standard. And with a home inspection, everything is done after the fact that the whole building is either fully completed or almost to completion, and just to make sure everything is built the way it should be. Yeah, that's just one of the main things that I could tell you at the moment. Hang on.
I agree with Joseph. Yeah, I get a lot of calls, and I think Joseph would agree, and Horatio as well. We get a lot of calls from buyers and agents occasionally, and saying, "Hey, my contractor came out. You pointed something, and he says it's not up to code."
Right.
And the important thing to note is that up to code, there's a question: is it up to today's code? Or is it up to the code when the house was built? If the house was built in the 1950s, the codes were much different then than they are now.
Yeah, they changed.
Sometimes contractors will say, "Hey, the house is not up to code. The electrical panel is not up to code. You need to replace the electrical panel." And most of the time, I've come to find out that's not the case. You don't need to replace the panel. It's not a requirement because it was up to code based on 1950s codes, and as long as, correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, as long as there's no safety concerns in the panel, then there's no actual need to bring it up to code.
Definitely. Yeah, the only reason why you would bring things up to code, especially now, is if you're doing any remodeling, and just or adding certain features to a home or changing something. At that point, then you would want to update things to code, especially with a lot of flippers nowadays. It's very important to make sure that they make sure that everything is how it should be currently to the current standards today, versus how it used to be back, a year ago, 3 years ago, and things of that nature. It's so yeah. I totally agree with you, Tony. Yeah, you don't have to update anything, bring things up to code if there's nothing that's any deficiencies. And the only reason why you would bring it up to code is if you're doing the remodeling or updating.
Thank you, Joseph. Horatio, you have a comment?
Yes, I wanted to add to that. Keep in mind that most of the inspectors, all of my colleagues, even the ones that we have here on the panel, we have a lot of knowledge. I myself am a professional engineer. My colleagues here are also contractors. We have a lot of knowledge, but we're here as inspectors. We're not here representing the city or any agency. It is a very fine line that we do need to walk whenever we are confronted with those questions. We give you all of our information, but keep in mind that we're there as inspectors, and our report will be written from an inspector's perspective. It is always the agent and the client's responsibility to follow up with any specific contractors that do have licenses on those fields that could decide yay or nay. We only bring out that information to the buyer and to the agent. Thank you.
Thank you, Horatio. Tony, with COVID-19, do you recommend the buyer still be present at the inspection?
Sure, absolutely. As I always recommend the buyer and the agent be present at all inspections. There's a big difference from viewing a report and a photo of a deficiency, as opposed to actually being on site where I could walk with them, even maintaining social distancing and having all of our PPE on, and actually pointing things out and going over what the potential options are for repairing it. So yeah, I absolutely recommend that everybody be at the inspection. There's a good article that I always send out with my confirmation email that tips for buyers before the home inspection, things that they should do. For example, bringing a measuring tape and a pad to take measurements of anything they want. Maybe finding a babysitter for the kids so that they can interact and concentrate on the inspection. Yeah, I absolutely and I think everybody will agree, it's always a good idea to have them there. And you know, in our current circumstances, of course, we'll take all the precautions necessary, maintain social distancing. And I know that in some cases that the buyer can't be there or the agent can't be there. And we will do video conferencing or phone call conferencing, but it's always better that all parties be present.
Thank you, Tony. And I just have one more question, and then we'll open up to Q&A. Joseph, how has COVID-19 affected the home inspection process? How's it being dealt with?
So I'll real quick. Tony did answer a lot of them, so I hope I don't. I'm not beating a dead horse here. But you know, like a lot of businesses across you know, the nation, we've seen some impact. You know, a lot of them we've been you know, trying to adapt and overcome these issues. And you know, nowadays a lot of us are taking advantage of the all the different types of communication technologies, such as Zoom or Google or Facebook. And you know, as soon as we finish a lot of our inspections as home inspectors, we do offer a lot of different ways to making sure that everybody is safe. You know, if clients can't be there, like Tony explained earlier, it's totally cool. We can definitely go over the report with clients over the phone or via Zoom. There's always a way for us to make sure that all our clients are taken care of, all the information is there, and you know, educating them, and at the same time making sure that they are safe as well, them and our fellow agents. So things like meetings like this, it does help and maintain all that. And what's really important now is to making sure that our relationship with all our fellow colleagues, our agents, other affiliates, is making sure that we support each other and taking care of each other. And you know, with that said, with everything going on, as long as we maintain that positive attitude, we'll definitely get through this together.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you, Tony, and thank you, Horatio. Let's give our amazing panelists applause, and make sure that you do save everyone's number here. Take a screenshot, take out your mobile phone, take a picture right now before we move to a different page later. So make sure you get their contact information.
If
okay?
I may, James, and
yes.
I think everybody will agree in the same thing. I tell this to all of my customers and all my clients, and I genuinely mean this. You can call me anytime with any questions. Even if you're not ordering a home inspection, if you have a question, hey, this looks a little off, what do you think about it? I get, you know, my contacts do that all the time. I had a home inspection done, and the inspector called this out. What do you think? Text me a picture. I'll be happy to look at it, answer any questions, any code related stuff, anything like that. I genuinely mean it. You don't have to order a home inspection. My philosophy is to educate first.
Thank you, Tony. We appreciate that. Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and look for, I see some questions coming in. Let me go ahead and get those to the panel speakers, okay? Okay, so I see a question. Seller has rejected to turn on water for inspection since this fix-up property is under deferred maintenance. Mostly damaged, sold as is. What can we do if buyer insisted to do inspection? I know it's a loaded question. Did you need me to rephrase it?
I think I can kind of touch on it, and if the other guys want to hop in, that'd be great.
Of course.
Typically with things like this, if I were to see it, I'd recommend to obviously have it, you know, repaired first, and then once it's done, always have the inspector come back and take a look to see if it was done repaired correctly, and make sure that there isn't any more issues. Sometimes when we get to when we do an inspection and we see something that we can't get to, for an example, the crawl space, it's always good to, you know, recommend to have access for it next time, and to have that inspector to come back and take a look, and to make sure it gets fully evaluated, because you don't want to just tell the client, oh, I can't get access to it, and then just leave it at that, because that doesn't bring any value to the client. at all, and it doesn't mean anything to the customer. It just means that you just couldn't get into it when you couldn't, or you couldn't inspect that part of the home. So that's my take on it.
I think Horatio has his hand up. I'll chime in after him.
Just to add to that, I mean, we're not buying peanuts here. I mean, we're buying a home that, you know, is usually close to $1 million. I mean, you want your client to know exactly what they're buying, that they know every corner of the house and they are content that they knew what they're buying. You as an agent don't want to get a call after escrow, hey, guess what? Now the garage is accessible and this is what we found.
Yep.
I mean, that's how I feel. You want to make sure that your client knows exactly what they're buying and what they're signing. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. You know, sometimes it's unfortunate, but there's nothing you can do about not having access to a crawl space or the utilities not being on. I get that a lot. There's a lot of flippers out right now, and I run into a lot of properties in some older neighborhoods where mom and dad are no longer around. The kids don't want to do anything with the house. They're selling it. The utilities have been off for a while. The buyer is either a first-time buyer who wants to fix it up, or sometimes it's an investor. And that's a different situation, because if it's an investor, a lot of the times they'll tell me, oh, it's okay that the plumbing's not on because I'm going to replace all the plumbing anyways. But if it's a first-time home buyer and they plan on moving in, they want to know every nook and cranny, like Horatio said, about the house. And if the utilities aren't on, it limits the inspection. But there's a lot that we can still do, even without the utilities on. If it has a crawl space, for example, we can still go in. We can still look at the condition of the pipes. Are they galvanized pipes? Is there a lot of rust on the pipes? That's a good indication of what the plumbing system is going to be like. Is it cast iron pipes? Is there any evidence of any leaks already under the house? Of course, we want the utilities to be on, and then in some cases we schedule a reinspection afterwards, or we can schedule a reinspection. What we call repair verification, where if the seller agrees to make repairs, and then based on the request for repairs, then we go back armed with that request for repairs and verify that those repairs have actually been made. I had one just yesterday, which was an HVAC system that hadn't been on in a long time. And without having to turn it on, I could tell right away that it was definitely at the end of its useful life. Had a lot of rust damage, particularly in the burner chamber, which indicates a hole in the heat exchanger, which is a potential hazard. So there was no need to turn it on in that case, and I was able to tell them, hey, you know what, you need to get an HVAC contractor out here, but just based on my experience, they're probably going to tell you that you need to replace the unit.
Okay, Tommy.
Yeah. And a real quick, to put it simply, the more access that we have to the systems throughout the home, the better that we can fully evaluate the home and educate you, agents and the clients a lot more and a lot better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have another question coming in from Mark. Is it possible to view a sample of one of your home inspection reports?
Yes, absolutely. I think we all have them, but it's on my homepage. It's like one of the first thing on my homepage. So if you go to my website, you can see it there. You can see the residential and the commercial sample reports.
Absolutely. Our company also has that online. Go to just bpginspections.com.
Yeah, I could definitely provide that per requested.
Thank you. And also, question, can home inspections be done in a same timely manner as before COVID? What's the time frame looking like today?
It's looking good. Yeah, it's looking good. Scheduling is a couple of days out. Delivery of the report is generally within 24 hours as well. So as long as we have access to the property, I don't see any delays.
The only thing is just during the inspection, we may add another, 10 minutes just because we need to be a little bit more cautious to check that our plastic gloves are not torn, that our mask is always on, that we have the shoe covers, just a few more minutes just to verify that our, safety equipment, gloves and masks are always on and, secured. But that's about it. We always do a 24-hour turnaround on the reports, and we're always available by phone.
Yeah, and we make sure that we have our PED forms signed as soon as we get those or have that ready. We can even provide that ourselves before entering the homes to make sure that everybody's safe and not affected by COVID-19 or at all.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. I've assisted buyers with HUD home and home path purchasing. In those cases, the buyers pay for the utilities during the inspection period. Can that be done?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, let me go ahead and see if we could, let me re-ask it. So Sylvia has assisted buyers with HUD home and home path purchasing. In those cases, the buyers pay for the utilities during the inspection period. Can that be done?
I don't see any reason why they can't. As far as the utilities during the inspection period, most utilities, if you call them, they have what's called a clean and show, and you can turn them on temporarily, the utilities. It takes a little bit of scheduling. If you know that the utilities are off, and this would be my advice for realtors, if you know that the utilities are off and it's going to have to go through an inspection, most utilities will allow you to do a clean and show. And it's a temporary thing, and just for your inspection period, and then you can turn them right back off. They'll actually set a date to having the utilities on between this date and that date, and then they'll automatically shut them off.
Thank you, Tony. What about a re-inspection? What are the costs of a re-inspection if there's a need to do one?
There is a cost. It just really depends on everybody's company. But there typically is a re-inspection cost, and when that happens, we go back and re-inspect some of the things that was failed. Well, I wouldn't say failed, just needs to get improved from our original inspection report.
Our re-inspection fee is $200. A lot of buyers don't want to spend that additional $200, so we always recommend to have all those areas accessible to have inspected. But yeah, for us to be back at the same location is $200.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. Even on my website, you'll see that there's no price for reinspection. It depends on the situation, whether we had access the first time around to something, or are we verifying an actual repair. So they're two different types of things. But yeah, feel free to drop me a line at my email address anytime, and I'll be happy to answer any questions as far as that goes. But yeah, all the information is on my website.
Okay, thank you. And if for any reason the inspector needs to go back to the property the next day, is a new PEAD required since it's a different date?
Definitely. You always need a new PEAD form for a different date because things could change. And we don't know who was in the property last, and we could have been in different inspecting different properties as well. So it's always important to have a new PEAD form for each property, and especially if it's a different date. So it's a new day, you need a new form, and it's not a big problem for us to sign it, I'm sure.
Okay. Okay. I don't see any other questions. We'll go ahead and once again, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Horatio. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate your time today.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hope we educated everybody, or at least everybody learned something new. But again, if there's anything that any of us could help you, please feel free to reach out to any of us. I'm sure we're more than happy to answer all of your questions.
Absolutely.
By phone, just send me a text or give me a phone call, or otherwise emails. I reply to them in the evening. But if you need immediate attention, give me a. I'm always available.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Call me or text me anytime. My phone number is right behind me. You can send me a text, send me a picture. Even if I'm in the middle of an inspection, I can't pick up the phone during an inspection, but I'm always able to text. I've returned texts from crawl spaces.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everyone. And don't forget, save this information down, okay? Take a picture while the contact information is up here. And then we're gonna go ahead, close the panel. And without further ado, I will hand the mic back to Pauline.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Everybody stay safe and take care.
Great. Thank you, James and panelists. What a great and wonderful home inspection panel. Thank you. On behalf of West San Gabriel Valley Realtors, we would like to thank James Chang, Tony Escamilla, Horatio Garfield, and Joseph Yan for your informative presentation. Please join our virtual education classes. A list of upcoming classes is displayed on the screen. Thank you everyone for joining our meeting today. We hope to see you again next week. The topic is a CAR and NAR report. This concludes my May program chair service to you. Thank you very much. Next June, Emma's program chair is Christine Chen from KW Signature Realties. Please support our affiliates with your transaction. This meeting is now adjourned. Stay safe, stay well. We'll see you soon in June. Thank you. Thank you very much.